50 years of Vietnam War. Context: the year 2025 commemorated the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War's end, 1955–1975, with the fall of Saigon. Origins of the Vietnam War. Z. Colonial background. French Indochina. From the mid-19th century, Vietnam was a French colony. During World War II, France was occupied by Germany and Japan took control of Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh, a committed socialist and nationalist, formed the Viet Minh to fight Japanese forces, Z post-World War II and First Indochina War. After Japan's defeat, France returned to reclaim Vietnam, but armed resistance by Ho Chi Minh resulted in the First Indochina War, 1946–1954. The US backed France fearing communist expansion. Z. Geneva Accords, 1954. After France's defeat at Dien Bien Phu, Geneva Accords signed. Vietnam temporarily divided at the 17th parallel. North Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh, Communist. South Vietnam, Emperor Bao Dai, later Ngo Dinh Diem. Planned elections in 1956 to reunify the country were cancelled by Diem. The Viet Minh was a Vietnamese organization, officially known as the League for the Independence of Vietnam, that fought against the Japanese and French for national independence from 1941 to 1954. Z. Rise of Diem and U.S. involvement. Ngo Dinh Diem, Catholic in a Buddhist-majority nation, became South Vietnam's leader with U.S. support. Diem refused elections fearing communist victory. U.S. President Eisenhower, 1953–1961, acknowledged Ho Chi Minh would have won the elections. U.S. involvement and escalation. Z. Cold War and containment policy. Backdrop: the Cold War between the U.S. and USSR discouraged direct war due to mutually assured destruction nuclear arsenals. Instead, they sought influence through proxy wars. Vietnam became one such battleground. The U.S. feared the domino effect. If South Vietnam fell to communism, other Southeast Asian nations, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, might follow. Z. Gulf of Tonkin Incident, 1964. Alleged attack by North Vietnamese patrol boats on U.S. Navy vessels. Led to the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, passed by U.S. Congress. Z. Tet Offensive, 1968. Surprise attack by North Vietnamese and Viet Cong on over 100 cities. Though a military failure for the North, it shocked the U.S. public and eroded support for the war. Johnson to halt escalation and announce he wouldn't. Current affairs. Indian art and culture and history. End of the Vietnam War. Z. Shift in public opinion. Tet Offensive, 1968, exposed the futility of continued U.S. involvement despite government claims of progress. Widespread anti-war protests erupted across the U.S., including college campuses, e.g., Kent State shooting. The war lost public and political support in the U.S. Z. Nixon's Peace with Honor strategy. Introduced Vietnamization. Gradual withdrawal of U.S. troops. Introduced Vietnamization. Gradual withdrawal of U.S. troops. South Vietnamese Army to take over ground operations. Despite peace talks, Nixon expanded bombing into Cambodia and Laos. Continued heavy casualties and My Lai Massacre, 1968, further discredited U.S. involvement. Z. Paris Peace Accords, 1973. Signed between U.S., South Vietnam, North Vietnam, and NLF, Viet Cong. Key terms: ceasefire and U.S. troop withdrawal. Exchange of prisoners of war. However, conflict continued between North and South Vietnam post-U.S. exit. Z. Fall of Saigon, April 30, 1975. North Vietnamese forces launched a final offensive. The South Vietnamese army collapsed. Saigon captured and renamed Ho Chi Minh City. Vietnam reunited under communist rule in 1976 as the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Implications of the Vietnam War. Z. Human and psychological costs. 58,000 U.S. soldiers killed, 304,000 wounded. Veterans returned with deep psychological scars. Z. Crisis of trust in government. The war eroded public confidence in elected officials. Pentagon Papers revealed misleading government narratives. As Karl Marlantz, Vietnam War veteran, stated, "It made us cynical and distrustful of our institutions." Z. Political and legislative outcomes. Led to passage of the War Powers Act, 1973, to check presidential war-making powers. Rise of the Vietnam Syndrome. American reluctance for future foreign military interventions. Z. Agent Orange and chemical warfare. Approximately 74 million liters of herbicides sprayed. Agent Orange exposure led to birth defects, spina bifida, cleft palate, etc. Cancers, neurological disorders across multiple. Over 3 million affected, including children. Damage. Forests turned barren, croplands ruined. India's role and involvement in the Vietnam War. Z. Diplomatic standpoint. India maintained a principled non-aligned position as founding member of Non-Aligned Movement, NAM, but was sympathetic to North Vietnam's anti-colonial struggle. India recognized the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, North Vietnam, early on and maintained diplomatic, Z. Political support for Vietnam. Stance. Called Vietnam War, Neo-Colonialism, 1962. Allowed Vietnamese diplomats to operate in Delhi despite U.S. pressure. Z. Support to Vietnam. India provided moral and political support to Vietnam's struggle for independence and unification. Advocated for peaceful resolution and upholding of the Geneva Accords. Expressed solidarity with Vietnamese people during U.S. bombings and condemned the use of chemical weapons like Agent Orange. Conclusion. The Vietnam War was not just a military conflict, it was a defining moment in 20th century history that reshaped international politics, national identities, and public consciousness. As the world reflects on the 50th anniversary of the war's end, it serves as a somber reminder of the costs of ideological conflicts, the dangers of interventionism, and the enduring human toll of war.